Welcome back to Laughing in the Dark, the podcast where I hang out in haunted places with comedians. For this episode, I got to hang out with Detroit comic Sam Rager. Just a note about Sam. Her last name is spelled R-A-G-E-R. It's pronounced Rager, but I, for one, insist on calling her Rager, because how metal is that name? Whether you call her Rager or Sam Rager, Sam offers audiences a charmingly dark perspective. Layering playful anecdotes with vulnerable pieces, she is able to connect with people on a deeper, yet sometimes uncomfortable level. Sam was one of LaughFest's Best of the Midwest this year, a headliner at the inaugural Detroit Women of Comedy Festival, and regularly wows audiences at community colleges and nursing homes across the region. Her debut album, Trigger Warning, is available on iTunes and Google Play. Sam and I got to visit the abandoned former 6th Precinct of the Detroit Police Department. As always, be sure to check out the Instagram for pictures that go along with this episode. You can find us with the handle @LitDarkPodcast. Here's the episode. I hope you have fun. We are at the former 6th Precinct Detroit Police Department in Detroit, Michigan, and we are sitting in an abandoned cell of the police department.
It is tiny. It is.
It's very small.
Yeah, and not lit.
We're using our phone flashlights. It's dark. It's hot. It's humid. We were warned about spiders, which is my thing.
The
Fuck
walls
spiders.
look moist.
The walls are moist. There's a shrieking coming from somewhere that we're not sure the source of. We were just talking about how the paint is chipping off the wall and yet dangling like it's the branch of a weeping willow from the ceiling, which is a really unique thing to see. I've never seen that before. Have you?
No, it kind of also reminds me of Spanish moss.
Okay, yeah, I could totally see that.
Something I also like is that some of the people who snuck in here have done the whole carving their lover's name into the benches, which seems a lot less romantic than a tree.
Right. Yeah, they're just like, oh, this abandoned police department. Molly plus Craig forever. Yeah. Great. So yeah, the sides of the walls are literally damp, or is that just glossy? No, I think they're damp.
Yeah.
So it's a damp, is that brick? Brick wall.
Yeah.
And then in front of us is a white metal wall. It almost looks like it would be on the side of a ship.
Yeah, large rivets.
Yeah, large rivets in it. And then those metal clanking prison doors that you see in movies. That's right next to us. Because, we're literally in the prison cell. What do you think? Spooky?
Yeah.
Yeah?
100%.
100%. Right. We're at the 100% spooky. So like I said, this is the former Detroit Police Department's 6th Precinct on McGraw Avenue in Detroit, Michigan. The permit for this land was purchased in 1930 for $83,100, which today would be well over $1 million. Interestingly, the permit was actually pulled under the wrong address. So it was a little clerical oopsie. Yeah. So I guess they sorted that shit out. Regardless, construction started on June 19th, a week from the day that we are currently recording.
Oh,
yeah,
the happy
the
anniversary.
One. Yeah, it's the 12th today of July. Oh wait, this is June 19th, so just kidding.
Yeah, so we're over. We're
well over. Well, we're around. All right, we're around the same time that this was opened. I don't know what month it is. Back in 1930, so let's carry the 70. So this has been open it opened about 89 years ago. Is that right? Yeah. 89 years ago, over 89 years ago. It was estimated that it would take around 4.5 months to complete construction. The station officially opened the following year, sometime between late May and early October of 1931. The precinct was in continuous operation for over 50 years until October of 1986. It was later used as the Special Crime Section, otherwise known as the Gang Squad, until it finally closed in October of 2005. Do you know what the Gang Squad is?
No.
You're about to.
Ah.
The Gang Squad is a special paramilitary unit of the Detroit Police Department. Basically, it was created when gang violence broke out in some of the roughest parts of Detroit. Even the police needed help. So it was kind of like a special unit of the police force for gang violence that was too intense for the general police force. So that's where the Gang Squad comes in. Depending on who you ask, the Gang Squad will be described as necessarily rough or notoriously brutal.
Ugh. Probably the second one, I'm guessing.
I'm sure, but I think it's all perspective. It's like there are people that are like, well, we had gang violence. Mm-hmm. You have to subdue it. And other people on the other side are probably like, well, this wasn't a gang member, this is a kid.
Damn.
You know what I mean? So I think it's a kind of a fine line, and it's kind of hard to draw where that is, unless you're going case by case, is my opinion. I don't know. What do you think?
It's so
controversial.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to put you on the spot. You don't have to have an opinion.
I mean, I think like nowadays, like we have the benefit of like dash cams and all that
right.
to like catch them. So, but they like a lot of like figures in this area don't have the best reputation during that time that the Gang Squad have been around, mm-hmm. of being the most civil. And my second bachelor's is in criminal justice.
Oh my God, perfect. Yeah, this is like your perfect location, huh?
And the kind of criminal justice that they were teaching law enforcement agents like post 1930 was to be aggressive. And
oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So it was actually put in there that they're like kick their asses.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh my gosh. Even as recent as like 2009, I was trying to get some extra credit by volunteering at like one of the mock crime scenes, and they gave me a fake weapon. They're like, you're gonna want to drop this as soon as you can. And I did not even have time to think before I was like tackled and like,
oh
yeah, manhandled by like the recruits. And I'm like, oh, this is intense.
And they just were reenacting what it would have been like.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Interesting. And what was that for? Did you do that?
It was like extra credit because it was like for like a police academy.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, you can go here and volunteer to get some extra points. And I wanted a solid A that semester, so I'm like, do it. And and I thought it'd be easy.
Yeah, you just show up and play along.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was extra credit for you, so that was the purpose of it to give you the perspective of what it was like at the time, or was it training for the police department?
It was training for the police department. So even as recent as that, like the methods were pretty aggressive.
Wow.
Yeah, and the training didn't used to be like that. It was only like the late 19th century.
Yeah.
That it started getting more aggressive. Prior to that, like at least in Europe, they were trying to be like, if your jails are full, that means you're doing a terrible job.
Right.
And then as jails became privatized, like it kind of went in the opposite direction.
Okay. Like it was almost like vigilante justice, only they're the cops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, that's wild. And when was that?
So that was in 2009.
Wow. So that's probably kind of still how it's done. Like you wouldn't think it's been much different since then.
Yeah,
10 years ago.
I assumed it, but mm-hmm. I think because so many police officers are either getting in trouble or people are like taking it into their own hands to go against police, that a lot of the training centers are starting to become more reformed and try to bring in psychology more than...
Well, then that also is like an interesting perspective. That's almost like a devil's advocate from the side of the police the police officers in a lot of those cases where it's like, this is what they were taught. This is what they were told to do. You know what I mean? They think they're doing a good job. And then we sit here and like attack them for what they did, which I think is rightful when it's like, hey, it's police brutality. But then it's like, well, then what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's the institution that's the issue. It's not the acting officer.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting perspective that I had never considered before. So even gangs in the area will tell you there's a clear division in how the police force of Detroit is seen versus the gang squad. So you saw just the police force.
Yeah.
Was that in Detroit?
No, that was in like a small town, like Saginaw, Michigan.
So Saginaw is outside of Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
So
an hour and a half north.
Hour and a half north of Detroit. So it's close to Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably very similar here.
Yeah.
So there's a clear division in how the police force, which is what you described as even being brutal, of Detroit was seen, or how it was seen versus the gang squad. Tag, a senior at Denby High School in one of the most violent neighborhoods in the city, told Michigan Radio in 2013, "I don't want to say us gang members laugh at police, but they know that the police is the police and the gang squad is the gang squad. They will beat you up," unquote. So it's almost like you saw this perspective about these police officers. The gang squad, they don't play. Like, what you saw was like,
like Little League.
Little League, that's right, exactly. And then gang squad, they don't fuck around. And I think that's kind of what I take from it. About 6 years ago, the city made an effort to reorganize the police force, and it was suggested that the gang squad will be broken up in Detroit. The officers from the gang squad were suggested to put back into the they suggested that they should put these officers that they had set up in the gang squad back into just ordinary precincts, and it was as a result of an index of backed up homicide cases that hadn't been solved. I imagine most of those were probably gang related, so it probably kind of went hand in hand. The logic of this move was the idea that more cops on what is known as, quote, beat patrol, unquote, means police arrive sooner and they are more visible to the community, making dangerous neighborhoods safer. So I think the idea was, shit's fucked up. We have a lot of homicide cases. All right, we have this gang squad, basically a goon squad, Let's just take these thugs that are cops from the gang squad and separate them and put them into regular precincts because, look, we need to patrol these streets a little bit better. We need to be more visible. We need to have more men on the ground so that you're less likely to commit a crime in front of a cop car. Yeah. So let's put those people out there.
That had to have been hard for them to, assimilate back into, a normal...
Well, I mean, who's to say they had to?
Very true, but that they would be the strange person at work. When if you're in a break room, you'd be like, "Oh man, Steve's in there." He's he's very intense.
It would be like, "You don't fuck with that guy. He was on the gang squad." You know what I mean? I almost feel like they would probably be seen with more respect than a general precinct. I think. I don't know. I'm not a cop. But I'm not a cop. Don't worry. It's like something cops say. I'm not a cop, but... so all told, the station had 75 years of continuous service to the city of Detroit, Michigan. For 8 years, the building sat unused, falling into disrepair and falling victim to looters and vandalization, when finally an RT Software Systems bid for and purchased the building from the city of Detroit in December of 2013. Today, continuous work is done to repair and restore the building, and it will soon become Detroit's safest, strongest, and most historically significant state-of-the-art secure cloud computing data center, where both the digital and physical security of servers is kept in mind with a program called Data Behind Bars. For listeners, when I listed my sources, I had a typo in my notes and I called this date behind bars. That's not what it is.
Sounds a lot more exciting.
It does, and that's not uncommon. It's like, do you watch a shitload of like true crime documentaries?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So do I. So you know that these like notorious serial killers get a shitload of like love letters from random people. Like that's like a thing, like everywhere. You know, even like, it's like any high profile case, like they're seen as like attractive. Like even what's that whole controversial thing with the making a murderer? Mm-hmm. What was that guy's name?
Oh, I can't think of
it. Me neither. But I mean, even he like found his partner while he was behind bars. Remember? Did you watch Making a Murderer too?
Mm-mm.
Oh
no. I remember those 2 teenage kids who murdered their parents. Like they also found their lovers in jail.
Oh yeah, it's like super common. Or like Ted Bundy had like a fan group of like women that would come to his cases, like come to his court dates and everything, and like it's. So date behind bars is not unheard of. But that's not what this is. This is going to be data behind bars, which is like, you know, servers and computer systems put in literally actually like where we're sitting. Like they'll be put into these prison cells.
Yeah. Looking at it, it looks like it's been abandoned for more than 8 years.
It has been, I think. Let me think. Let me look at it again. It opened in 31. It finally closed in October of 2015. Yeah, so I guess, yeah, it's been 14 years. But yeah, that'll do it, I guess. I know. Or maybe it was falling into disarray when they were still using it.
They're just like phoning it in at that point.
Yeah, that could be. Because it definitely, like with the peeling paint, especially with all the rivets in the wall, it looks like a shipwreck.
Yeah, I was thinking the Titanic at that point.
It's got that kind of vibe. The idea about data behind bars is pretty simple. The digital security obviously is important, putting passwords on shit, but physical security of those servers is important too. This company is genius in that it's using the cells as storage for digital servers. I know nothing about computers, but my car's been robbed multiple times, and I feel like this is a pretty creative and awesome way to utilize a space like this in order to protect information. So it kind of makes sense, you know? What do you think?
Yeah.
Data behind bars.
I mean, it saves them from having to build like new. I mean, I'm wondering if they'll keep it. Did they say that they'll for sure keep the bars?
Yeah, that's what the company's called, Data Behind Bars. So I think they're like literally putting the servers behind bars.
So, yeah, that.
Although, I wonder if there's a datebehindbars.com. Like now, I'm curious. Like there's gotta be.
I mean, we could buy
some kind of a CD. Well, hey, that's a business right there. Bada bing.
It's Shark Tank.
Yep.
There.
But they're on speed dial. Mm-hmm. I got ideas. I mean, there's got to be something out there. You can buy a Russian bride. I'm sure there's a way to find like a dating app that's for like prisoners. Like I'm sure there is. Like, and if there's not, there's some listener out there right now that's like fucking genius. Like they're gonna make it. You gotta make the Tinder for prisoners.
Yeah. So many swiping.
Yeah. You're like looking at like for their bio, it's like they're like. What's it called? Like what they got convicted for and like all the like details of the crime.
Rap
Number
sheet.
of murders, 7. You're like, oh, he's successful. Like he's ambitious.
A lot of follow through.
Yep.
Very committed.
Yeah, this guy will do what he's out to do. He can do anything he put his mind to. 7 times.
Clearly he's passionate.
This building spans 26,724 square feet and is complete with a firing range, a basketball court and gym, 10 prison cells, one of which we're sitting in, 2 bullpens, and a drunk tank, which we checked out earlier, and then I told the guy that I'm no stranger to the drunk tank, and he laughed, he guffawed.
The drunk tank, I have to admit, looks creepier than the cells at first, like at least on the outside. Just like the door with like the little window.
Yeah, we'll take some pictures, and obviously, as always, those pictures will be up on our Instagram accounts. You can check that out if you want to see pictures that go along with this episode. But I'm dumb, so I looked up what bullpens meant, because I was like, what the fuck is that? Do you know what it is?
No.
Thank God. So it's not just me. I first found that it's an enclosure for bulls, which like makes sense with the name, but not with the location. But I later found bullpen also means an exercise area for baseball pitchers. Pretty sure that's what they meant here. But let's just be open to anything. There could have been, maybe those ribs out front were bull ribs. Who knows? We found, they have these human, or they don't know if they're human, they have these bones out front, and they were saying that they want to do some research and figure out if they're human bones that they found on location.
Outside this cell that we're in right now.
Literally outside the cell we're in, yeah, in a hole that goes straight down to the basement. They found these bones, and one of them, we both thought that one looked like a rib bone.
Yeah.
And you have a background in biological anthropology, right? So you were kind of looking at it going, okay, like, what did I learn in that class? Like, there was something. But we were thinking if it's human, it's either from a child or a lower down rib, like part of the rib cage, right?
Yeah, I used to know the specific name. I'm so ashamed of myself.
I wonder if it's not an animal, though. Like, I wonder if it's not like a raccoon rib.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a little hollow, but it definitely did look like, yeah.
Interesting. But really small. But yeah, I guess it could be like one of the lower ribs.
Yeah.
Interesting. So anyway, like bones are found here. Or maybe it's a bull. It could be that they're like, no, the bulls were kept here. Like, you know?
We had a permit for that.
Yeah. This is where they did their basketball. This is where the bulls were kept. Like, it's just your typical prison. The precinct opened in 1931, which was right in the heart of Prohibition. The original Tiger Stadium was built not far from the precinct back in 1938, and consequently, the area was buzzing with activity. The population of Detroit in the 1930s was roughly 23,000 residents.
Oh, that's so cute.
In 1967, a notorious riot broke out in Detroit, and this precinct played a major role in it. The 1967 Detroit riot was also known as the 1967 Detroit Rebellion or the 12th Street Riot. So if you've heard of any of those things, that's what we're talking about. It was a bloody riot between the black residents of Detroit and the Detroit Police Department that began early one Sunday morning on July 23rd of 1967. So it seems like it was racially influenced because, I mean, I imagine it was like a big race riot that came out between the police and the residents. I don't know why else they would mention that they were black residents versus the police.
Yeah, I thought that was the first riot in Detroit. That
In
was
the
like,
40s.
Yeah, I learned about that one, and I was like, oh wow.
And that one was, do you know the history of that one?
What one
It was
was
like 1943.
Was that the Belle Isle? The one that started Belle Isle was the Belle Isle one in the 60s.
Well.
A man was thrown off the Belle Isle Bridge.
What?
Yeah.
So I know there was a Detroit riot, I think in 1943. Yep, 1943 Detroit race riot. Am I good or am I good, man?
You know your stuff.
Okay, so that was from the evening of June 20th through the early morning of June 22nd. Let's see. And it was a race riot. Existing social tensions and housing shortages were exacerbated by the arrival of nearly 400,000 migrants. The new migrants competed for space and jobs, as well as against white European immigrants and their descendants. So that's where the race riot started. There were 34 deaths, 433 injuries, and 1,800 people arrested.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if it started at Belle Isle. I'm not seeing that. But at the time, there were also racial riots in Los Angeles, California, and Mobile, Alabama. Oh, it did. Rioting in Detroit began among youths at Belle Isle Park. So it is the one you're thinking of. So that was in 1943. This was another riot in 67. The Detroit police raided one of the unlicensed after-hour bars called the Blind Pig on the city's near west side. What resulted was one of the deadliest and most destructive riots in American history, lasting 5 days. In fact, now that I just gave the stats for that race riot, I should bring up what the stats are for this one. 1967 Detroit riot. When I went to look it up, there's like a 1967 Los Angeles riot too. Like,
wow.
There's a bunch going on at the time. Let's see. This one had the casualties of the 82nd Airborne Division had 5 wounded. The 101st Airborne Division had 3 wounded. Michigan Army National Guard had 1 killed and 55 wounded. Michigan State Police had 67 wounded. Detroit Police Department had 1 killed and 214 wounded. Detroit Fire Department had 2 people killed and 134 wounded. I'm not sure where this is coming from, but there were also, this is coming from Wikipedia, 16 killed and 493 wounded. There were also civilian casualties where 23 people were killed and 696 people were wounded.
Oh my gosh.
And then some of those are rounded and estimated because not all of the bodies were found or identified. So this precinct played a major role in the 1967 Detroit riot when the National Guard was, a National Guard, that one that was murdered that we saw from the Wikipedia, he was pinned down within these walls by a sniper and murdered. Several police officers have committed suicide in this building as well, but I didn't find a lot of information on that. So I wonder if Todd won't have more information for us from the Detroit Paranormal Expeditions. He's who's with us tonight. He might have some more details about that, so we'll want to ask him. I'm curious.
Yeah.
The new and current 6th precinct of the Detroit Police Department is located on Warwick Street. So there is a 6th precinct if you look it up. It's not the one we're sitting in right now. The one we're sitting in right now has been abandoned. It is no longer being used. There is a 6th precinct on Warwick Street.
Yeah, I almost went to that one.
Oh,
and
really?
I was like, oh, wow, maybe we're going to meet some new officers.
Yeah, I'm like, you're at the wrong one. When the abandoned precinct was explored, many interesting old documents were found here, including documents recognizing efficient and valuable service by police lieutenants at the time. There's also some right in front that we saw as we walked in. It looks like they do some tours through here, like it's a little museum right when you walk in that we sat and looked at. That's where we saw the bones, and that's where you can find little documents sitting in there. While it's unclear who exactly is haunting the Detroit's former 6th precinct, plenty of EVP recordings and other anomalies have been reported here. Some EVPs speak to the criminal activity of former prisoners here, as well as those officers who are rumored to have taken their lives within these very walls. Ghost hunters who explored this building asked, "Did you kill yourself in this room?" They were met with a response of, "Buddy did." They didn't actually hear this until they went back and listened to their recordings later on.
Oh, that'd be so creepy.
I know. I'm always waiting for that moment for Randy, my producer, to message me and just be like, I heard a sound in the back of this and I just kind of fucked with it and it's someone saying something to you guys.
Has that happened?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. We're crossing our fingers. I have caught a weird sound on an episode in season 1. I was visiting the Holcomb Creek train trestle with Jake Silberman, and I went back and listened to the audio from our episode, and I heard this sound, and it sounded like kind of like a computer sound, like it would. Jake actually asked me at the time. He goes, "Have you ever caught anything I'm recording?" And I was like, "On this show, no." And he goes, "Well, you're bound to." And then you hear it go, "Ooh," like it goes up in inflection. And he said something else, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know." And then right after that, you hear it go, "Ooh," and it goes back down. And I took just that clip and I sent it to my comic to be like, "Hey, do you know what this is?" Because I was wondering if he was going to be like, "Oh yeah, that's my phone. It makes that's like my alarm," or whatever it was that I just didn't notice it at the time. And his response back to me was, "No, and fuck all of that." So I don't know what that was, but that's kind of the only auditory anomaly that I've had on the show so far. But who knows? Maybe even at the time this episode comes out, my producer will have found something in a previous episode that we'll talk about. Who knows? I don't know. But not yet. I'm crossing my fingers. I'm hoping for it. Some EVPs caught here, or another one caught here was a voice of a phantom who may have been a former prisoner here, and he was also recorded as an EVP phenomenon when ghost hunters asked, "What happened to you down here?" And a voice responded faintly, "Wasn't me." Is that a kettle?
I hope it is.
All right, so for listeners, I don't know if the mics are going to pick it up, but we just heard what sounded like a scream.
Yeah.
Like a blood-curdling scream from like far away. And then it sounded kind of like a kettle, didn't it?
I'm going to go with that. Like a kettle, or like when you're using a screwdriver and it doesn't want to go in.
Okay,
That kind of.
yeah. That like grounding sound. Another ghost hunter asked while they were down here, "Did you steal something in here? Were you a thief?" And a voice responded, whispering, "Don't try something." How you feeling?
So it's interesting because every time like you finish like one of these, we hear like
Bumps.
Yeah.
In the night. Yeah.
Oh.
You can listen to a variety of EVPs caught in the former 6th Precinct Detroit Police Department on the Detroit Paranormal Expeditions website at DetroitParanormalExpeditions.com. Make sure you put an S at the end of expeditions, Detroit Paranormal Expeditions.com. So check it out for yourself and see what you think, because most of this stuff is subjective, and if you've been listening to my show for a long time, you know that I don't bullshit my listeners. So I'm not going to tell you what to believe. You can believe whatever the hell you want. I don't care. But listen to it for yourself, because it's one of those things that you definitely should check out and decide what your opinion is. And it's really, I've listened to them. There's definitely some that I'm like, I don't know if I really hear it. And then there's definitely others that you're like, oh yeah, that's definitely something they caught. So I find it fascinating. You might too. Make sure you check that out. So we are done with the notes portion. Now it's time for the fun. Are you excited?
A little bit.
You're a little bit excited. What do you mean?
What's weird is so I'm not sad or anything, but like I feel like a sense of like wanting to cry.
Oh no.
Yeah, like the pressure that you get like right like in your face. So I don't know like what's making.
Oh no. I don't want you to cry on my show, but at the same time, do whatever you feel comfortable with. But
so I don't
that's
know.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's like one of those things. I must be just like a dick. It's like I go into places sometimes that you're supposed to feel that like negative energy, and I'm like, whatever, just like bust in. But yeah, I'm sure that there's something to that, because that's definitely something that it's not just something I've heard about this place in particular, but I've heard about it in a lot of paranormal places, that there's like a sense of dread. Is that kind of how you're feeling?
it's hard to, like, I'm not sad, but
Yeah.
like just like it's like it's so hard to describe the feeling of, like, I'm not sad personally, but like there's just like a sense of sorrow, like almost at like a funeral of like somebody you didn't know very well, but you're seeing people mourn them.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, that must say something, unless, okay, there could be a couple things. It could be that you were chosen specifically to be like, I'm going to give you this feeling, you know? Or it could be like, it could be coming extrinsically, right? Where someone was like, a spirit was like, this is how I feel here. I want you to experience this. Or it could be intrinsic, where have you experienced being very empathetic a lot of your life? Mm-hmm. Okay, so it could be maybe like an intrinsic thing where you're like, I'm sensitive to these feelings, and maybe that's part of it. Is this something you've experienced before?
Like when I was like a kid, like a lot with like, we would go to places like I had great grandparents like live, and I could like kind of feel them, but like as I grew up, it kind of went away.
Interesting. And that's similar to what you're feeling right now. That's interesting. Well, thank you for being a trooper. Sorry to depress the shit out of you.
No, you're good.
Wait. Let's find our guys. So now, listeners, we're kind of just walking and wandering around. I do almost feel like this sense of lightheadedness. I'll say that. There's kind of that feeling of otherness. I don't know how to describe it. There's a different feeling here. And I don't feel the lightheadedness when I stop. Like, I keep stopping to take pictures for the Instagram, you know? And when I stop, I feel fine. And then when I start walking, it's like I kind of feel this like the room almost like, I don't know. Are you feeling that? That it's not dizziness, it's not really fully lightheadedness, it's just like that sense of like, I don't know, it's weird. I kind of want to creep around before we find them. Because I like getting spooked out. Do you want to shine the flashlight in here? We could take a picture in here. Cool. Thank you. How we doing?
Good. How was it?
It was good. Yeah, we told our stories. We're ready to
Check
check it out. Yeah. Oh, Sam is feeling a sense of dread. Is that a thing here?
Yes. Yeah. Are you sensitive? You are?
Or
You probably are then if you can feel it.
You should show her downstairs if she's feeling dread.
It'll feel different down there.
And she'll feel better or worse?
Worse. That's where the dread's coming from, probably. So check it out.
In
Interesting.
certain areas though, so let's see if you can pick out there.
Is that where the police officers committed suicide?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't find a whole lot of information about who the police
You
officers
won't find
were.
it, yeah.
They suppress it. So you have to do like a FOIA, like the Freedom of Information Act. They don't want to talk about that, so they keep it out of the media, you know?
Oh.
So we got about 300 articles from 1930 till present
Mm-hmm.
that had all kinds of discussions about what's going on. But they suppressed all that stuff because there's, you know, they're trying to, there's a police union, there's the police public image, there's the whole situation where, you know, during the times these were happening, these were different times. Like the police in the 70s, the police, 60s and 70s, policing in Detroit was
Shit, even the 80s.
beat you to halfway to death, and then you're lucky if you know, if you're, you know, I mean, it was not the same at all. So so you didn't hear about people getting their head smashed and getting killed near, you know,
Oh,
you just
shit.
didn't hear about it because
Social media, I mean.
that's that, and, there was no internet. On top of the fact, there was no real community. The only thing there really was newspapers.
Some Alice Green and all that changed. Alice Green.
That's what ended up happening. What ended up happening was for a long time there was the quiet, kind of like the honor system that was affecting Kennedy, where Kennedy was behaving badly as president, but they wouldn't report on Marilyn Monroe type of situation. Where the city, the policing and the unions kept the newspaper at bay by saying, if you call us out, we're never going to give you anything, so they honored that kind of silence, and then until the Mount Screen stuff in the 90s, that's when it started kind of falling apart.
And I was wondering too, like, I just did an episode in Chicago on like Bugs Malone and like, or Bugs Marone and what's his face, fucking Scarface. And the police department was involved with the gangs as well. And this was during Prohibition, so that's what I was assuming.
Listen,
there's a lot of...
At one point, I think it was 1943, no, maybe 33, the city came in here and fired the entire police department out of here because they were all on the take. They were all purple gang.
Yeah.
They were all getting $50 a week from every bar.
Right.
And it got to the point where the community couldn't even support it because everybody was on the take.
Like speakeasies, not bars.
Yeah, totally speakeasies, totally illegal Prohibition era stuff.
Yeah.
It wasn't Prohibition anymore because this opened in 31. Prohibition was like 23 or whatever. I think it was 23.
I think Prohibition was through the 30s, wasn't it?
I'm not exactly sure, but the bottom line is they actually got everybody out of here at one time.
Oh,
Fired
interesting.
The entire department.
Cleaned house.
Cleaned house.
Well, there's always been police corruption in Detroit until Kwame Kirkpatrick.
Well, believe me, there's still police corruption in every police department.
Yeah. Right,
there's
true.
Police corruption in every police
Yeah,
department.
does a bear shit in the woods? It's very,
But it was so rampant. Just rampant.
Real
in
out of
Detroit.
control.
Because they don't make the police don't make a lot of money in Detroit.
No.
So the drug dealers and the gangs that pay them protection, and some of the cops are even drug dealers themselves.
Well, we're not near it, but it's the typical thing that you see played out on teledrama, which is you go bust a crack house and they take half the cash first, and who's gonna know that that cash was there or not there?
Right.
Then that comes back to the protection side of it, where the gangs are paying to prevent that,
Yeah.
So it was just a madhouse for years.
Yeah.
And it still happens today, but what's tempering that is all the media. Everybody has a phone.
Everybody has a camera on them.
Everybody's got social media inputs. So it's much, much, much harder to be a criminal in general.
Right.
Much less to be a criminal in a uniform. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's really tough. So,
Definitely.
So that's why it kind of changed. But I'm not surprised you're feeling dread. Because a lot of stuff that happened here never made it to the newspaper.
Interesting.
And if you go to FOIA and try to get freedom of information, they'll drag you along for a while. But you might be able to find some stuff if you're interested.
Yeah. So how did you guys come up with this information? Like, how were you able to find that?
Anonymous police reporting to us.
Awesome.
We had people that.
Wait, who are you involved with? I know you were with the paranormal, the Detroit Paranormal Expeditions.
I own it.
You own this building.
Yeah.
Okay.
Check this out. Can't put it on media, but.
Oh, nice. So this is a. Can we say on the
legit.
podcast what it is? 'Cause I'm recording. Do you want me to not say it?
I'm
You
not
don't have to
saying
say it. Okay.
It's
We were just told a secret.
It's an artifact. It's a relic. It's
Yeah.
It's something that is because we have
Was
friends.
it left here?
No.
Oh, it wasn't. It was given to you.
Friends in the force.
Yeah. Okay, right on.
Friends in the force.
Yeah, that's dope. So yeah, I'm interested to go check out the basement. Do you know, and are you able to say the people who committed suicide in this building?
There should be a bunch of articles right there that are laminated for you to take a look at when you get time that have some, that name names.
The name names.
Yep.
Okay, and I don't have to say the names on the podcast?
Well, you can, feel free. That's all a matter of public record. All of
Okay.
it. We found over 300 articles. Plus, there's a bunch of stuff we found here. See all these books?
Yeah.
These books? We've got probably 50 police arrest record books like that. They're full of social security numbers, addresses, criminal, the charges for each crime, everything else. And if you look through here, every decade represented. We found stuff from every decade in here.
Yeah.
30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s.
And this is like a menu?
Yep, everything from, everything from commendation letters to tickets to, there's even like some, look at the certificates up high, you can move these out all over. Look through there. These are all legit that we found here. These are all articles that are matter of public record up high.
So it's within some of these articles that have the stories of the
Here.
suicides.
Take a look at this.
Oh, tries to hang himself in cell.
Sniper, suicide.
So do you have any rough estimate of how many people died in this prison?
Dozens.
Dozens.
Yeah.
So a lot of them
70
prisoners committing suicide, officers committing suicide, and murders happening with it.
75 years, 24/7, 365 of over 100 police officers in here.
Right.
In a high crime, dense, inner city Detroit neighborhood. So it's even hard to imagine how much traffic that is.
There was 12 suicides in the Southwalk area.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's-
really? I thought there were only 3 of police officers.
12
So-
there, and then 2 police officers in the basement.
No, and then at some point there were 500 citizens in a riot. Break the door down, pull all the cops out of here, and break all the prisoners out. In 1943. So.
And that was the 1943 riot. So
Yeah.
that was the race riot of 1943 that we
they
talked
came in
about.
here, they knocked the door down, they pulled all the cops out of here, and they liberated all the
And those were
prisoners.
civilians that came in and did that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
It's in one of these somewhere, we'll find
Yeah,
it.
there's 2 riots. That's one where
Yeah.
they took the prisoners out.
There's more here too. One of these. So this is police deaths. What are these? Yeah. Yeah, here's a guy who committed suicide after he shoots his wife. Just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
It was a different time. Policing was not then what it is now. I mean,
Well, and you
it
can
was a very
imagine-
tough business.
Some of these cops that committed suicide, I wonder if they felt that hopelessness of like, there is no protection.
No, they had to be feeling that. I mean,
Yeah.
there's 2 sides to the story.
Right.
You always, as a public person, you always hear the public side of the story. You always
Yeah.
hear discussion about how that is disadvantageous to the public, and But how about feeling like you're the only guy in the neighborhood? Everybody's out to kill you. I mean, how do you feel
Both
that way?
in the police
Day
force
in,
and in the
day out,
gangs.
day in, day out, to have to
Oh.
live that life. I mean, to deal with what they deal with. I mean, somebody has to think about, take it from their perspective. We never even
Yeah.
thought about it because we were busy, trying to restore the building and thinking about the business. We didn't even think about this situation until
Yeah.
we got some research done. But just imagine the life. Imagine the life of a police officer in a racially motivated. As much as the police department was racist, the community was racist back to the police department. I mean,
Right.
the black community hated the white police. The white police, beat up on the black community. So it was
Yeah. They were
to
like
have-
race riots.
To have a decent fight, you got to be at least 50-50. So
Right.
there, it went on for so long. So there are 2 sides to that story.
Yeah.
And the stress involved with trying to be racist against the black community is tough.
Yeah.
It's just as tough as the black community having to fight back against racism. It's
Right.
I'm not saying it's right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm just saying it happened.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
were talking about that too from the devil's advocate point of view of like, these cops are trained
Yeah.
to react brutally.
It was institutionalized.
It was institutionalized,
And-
exactly right.
And not only that, again.
No, the violence that they were trained.
Take away right, wrong, or indifferent. If you
Yeah.
don't judge the situation,
Yeah,
you take an objective point of view. The reality is that it was brutal on the streets for the people that were living here, and it was
Right.
brutal in the cop cars for the cops, and they were having a war.
Right.
And whether or not that was right, wrong, on what side of it you're on, doesn't
Yeah.
really matter. The reality is, those people on both sides got killed
Right.
themselves, dealt with, killed
Yeah.
each other,
right,
riots and mayhem and everything ensued. And then '67 is really when it boiled over.
right.
There's
That
pictures of us, of National Guard guys shooting out of the front door here.
and wasn't he murdered by a sniper in this building?
Well, no, that particular incident is right here.
Uh-huh.
Troops, police, and National Guard were literally aiming out that door
Uh-huh.
against snipers that were attacking the police department in '67 in July during
Uh-huh.
that riot, as tanks were rolling by.
Jesus.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
I've got pictures of it, when it was brand new, when they were in the middle of that, and then when it was in ruins, and I'm gonna have a picture when it's restored, so I'm gonna have 4 pictures around here that show the same perspective, across the
Uh-huh.
across the decades.
That's a cool way to do it.
Yeah, I have it here.
Is this desk the original?
This is the arraignment, yeah, go look at this. This is where they keep a shotgun, because getting stormed at the front door was common. So look at that, sawed-off shotgun, lives there. So if somebody comes storming the door, they've got a way to defend themselves.
Uh-huh.
See that?
I don't see the gun.
It's right there, that square. A sawed-off shotgun would be right in there.
Oh, it's not in there.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, I'm looking for the gun here. No, not in there. Great.
I wonder what kind of like quick draw that they had like
They
working
had that, and then they
behind.
had this. this is where all the revolvers were kept, all the hand weapons. So they keep all these right here behind the desk.
Uh-huh. I mean, but how quickly could you come over here?
Well, most policemen are armed on their sidearm.
Right, yeah.
But the reality was, it's a hostile environment,
Yeah.
And before the court system like we have now, you'd get arrested, you'd come in here and go to jail, you'd come here and listen to the judge to get arraignment and a sentence right here. Mm-hmm. So every
And then the
precinct-
drunk tank is back here, and there was only 10 cells here, is that right?
That's right. 10 cells, 1 drunk tank, and then 2 holding pens for male and female.
Okay.
And, every precinct would dole out their own justice. So, you'd face a judge at the arraignment desk right here.
Yeah.
It wasn't a courthouse system like it is now.
Right when you got brought in?
You'd get brought in, processed. Mm-hmm. Depending on what was going on, you'd either sober up or,
Right.
depending on what else is going on, you're going to hang out and wait.
Yeah.
At some point, they arraign you, which is they call the charges and press charges against you, and then the judge decides. So you either go back and serve time.
So it's like within hours, basically, what you're doing.
Unless it's days and days because there's so much of a backlog. So it's hard to say.
Right.
If it's not busy, that's hours. But they probably sat in there for days and days because so much action was going on.
Right.
But
And then even where they're sitting, there's
Right.
danger and violence.
And then serious crimes, murder and mayhem would go on to the state level.
Sure.
But this drunk and disorderly, those kinds of things would be dealt with right here.
So you work for Data Behind Bars, is that
Yes,
right?
That's right. I own the building, and we're building a data center here.
That's right. And you're putting them actually behind the prison doors, correct?
In the jail cells.
In the jail cells, okay.
Yep.
So are you also going to do tours through here or no?
Sure.
You are, okay, excellent, that's cool.
Yeah.
What has been the creepiest thing that you both have experienced?
You go first.
Mine's been the basement stuff. Really, I felt something rush at me. The door closed a little bit. I'll show you guys where. And then I could feel something, I could feel it come at me, and I actually ducked down. Brandy was with me, she's our psychic medium. Mm-hmm. She jumped on me, she felt it too. Because she thought I was running away, but I was actually just ducking down because I felt the energy come. We also had, there's a whistler here, so I heard a whistling. I think we're in here, and we heard it down the hallway towards the jail.
We heard that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You heard the whistler? Mm-hmm. You probably recorded it then.
Hopefully it got caught on the microphones. So I'm standing really close to you while you talk, so that my microphone's right here.
Okay.
Her microphone's right there. So between all 4 of us, when we are walking around and talking, we'll all just stand close. So stand close to one of us.
Okay.
And that way everything will be caught on the mics.
And
But yeah, hopefully it got caught. We'll
audio
see.
that said, "We're back here," because I was like, "Who's back there?" And we caught an audio that said, "We're back here."
Mm-hmm.
But they're back here. I can't remember which, but that's on our website.
Yeah, there's a few. I talked about that. There's a few on your guys' website at the DetroitParanormalExpeditions.com. Yep. And I even emphasized an S at the end of expedition for you.
Expeditions, yep.
Got people on there. Don't worry. We'll put it on our website and everything. But yeah, we did hear.
There's rocks. Little rocks were thrown at us.
Okay.
What?
Like up from the ground and then thrown right at us. So we'll go in that area. Maybe it'll happen.
So you feel how hot it is right now, right? There's no ventilation in here. There's no open areas. There's no explanation for any kind of draft whatsoever in this building. The weather is like it is. Okay, we're in here doing construction, and you'll walk and you'll be somewhere where you're hot, and suddenly it's 20 degrees colder. I mean, it's instantly like a sharp coldness comes, like a blast of air from absolutely nowhere. There's no vents. The construction design was boilers. So there's no ventilation. There are no vents, that's modern construction. So we're sitting in a zone and suddenly it's cold. You turn around and suddenly it's back to normal. So it's not, just stuff you cannot explain. We're working in zones where there's no tools, no materials, far away, and we hear noises. There's absolutely nobody else in the building. There's no way they can get in because everything's secured.
Right.
We lock ourselves in because of the neighborhood,
So as the owner, what year did you purchase this building?
So we worked with the city. We made a proposal in 2013, which took about 18 months for us to actually get the deal to happen because we had to get the approval of the city. We had to propose new jobs and bring a technology plan, and they didn't want to just have somebody buy it and speculate. They wanted to have it turned into something productive, right?
Uh-huh.
So after getting through that process, which was also during the city's bankruptcy, we finally got to actually get the deed and close and pay for the transaction in December of 13.
Okay.
So right after that, I went down to the police department with my deed in hand. I said, I want to speak to the community officer and do a dead body check So they came with us and we broke the door down, never been in the building until that time. We went in guns drawn and we checked all 27 rooms on all levels.
For dead bodies?
For dead bodies.
That was the goal?
We'd never been in here.
Holy shit.
No,
So-
you have to imagine, it was this high of cracked needles and papers and burned up stuff.
Oh,
It
yeah,
was
because obviously people are coming in here.
9 years
So you're thinking of like
scrapping.
overdoses and stuff like that.
Dead bodies, whatever, murders, whatever.
Yeah,
You know, so
right.
so it took us 42 dumpsters worth of trash just to get to this moment, like to see what you see now.
Holy shit. Did you
42
find
dumpsters.
any dead bodies?
No,
No, that's good.
thankfully, you know.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
that was April, so it was flooded wet. The basement had about 3 feet of water in it, you know, and
That was this April?
no, it was April of 14.
Oh, 14, okay.
So 5 years ago.
Yeah,
And over that time, we've done all kinds of stuff to secure the building. And, you know.
right. So how do you feel as the owner of this building about the hauntings?
Prior to all of this, you know, I'm 51 years old, okay?
Okay,
I have a pretty strong belief that energy, because of science, energy cannot be destroyed, can only change form, right?
Sure.
So it's reasonable as a logical thinker that when you die, the electricity that's in your hand that's coming from your brain goes somewhere, you know?
Right.
So it's totally plausible to me that people remain, you know, especially since there's so many people. I hadn't even considered the idea until we took delivery and started working here and had these other people start to experience these things and report, you know?
yeah,
So I must not have a sensitivity to it, but now that I've experienced stuff happening here, you know, I'm not discouraged by it. So I'm just gonna, you know, I believe, I'm optimistic that they feel that I'm trying to do something productive here. you know.
yeah,
So there's room for them, you know, as far as I'm concerned.
nice, right on. And it sounds like if you open this up to a museum as well as a data center, that will also help you, give you some business, and also kind of put some respect out there for the bodies that are here, for the people that have died here as well.
We're gonna have a plan where you can, we can charge to spend the night in the cell. We're gonna start doing all
Hell
this.
yeah,
You
that
can spend
sounds
the night
dope.
locked in the cell, locked in.
With the data.
Sign a release.
Just kidding.
Locked in. So, you know, we've got areas that can handle that without, we don't have to fully have everything completely populated with data cabinets. So
Right.
we're gonna make a reservation.
Because that would kind of destroy the point
Right,
of
right.
data behind bars protected from
Yeah.
people.
Is it like one per cell, or could people be getting it on?
Probably two,
Yeah.
based on how they're designed, you know.
Yeah. Sounds like fun.
Oh, I won't do that.
No? You wouldn't want to?
No, I don't usually stay the night in haunted places.
No?
Nope.
¿Por qué no?
I did it one time. It was, didn't sleep well.
Where was that?
Randolph County Infirmary in Winchester, Indiana.
Okay.
I suspect there are lots of people that will want to do it, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people do that.
I've
So-
done episodes in haunted hotel rooms and haunted bed and breakfasts and stuff, and that's my shit. I do it.
I like to go home though.
Well, you're
I've
asked,
done it
if
a
we're
few
doing it
times.
here, you're asked to sign a release and locked in
Oh,
overnight.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
From either dusk till dawn or from 12 till 12, however you agree, whatever we
Yeah.
do, you know.
I'd love to.
And that's
It'd
how
be
it'll
fun.
be, you know.
Will there be like toilets or like a Gatorade bottle?
Nope,
The
no
same-
toilets.
Same trick, same thing the prisoners had to deal with. So there's a
Yeah.
toilet in the cell, you know.
We'll
and-
beat your ass up and yeah, lock you in a cell and
Yeah.
sounds
Toilet-
like
there's
fun.
a toilet there, so you have to.
In fact, buckle up. Guess what we're in for tonight? Just kidding.
No, there's people that do that, so they love doing that.
I know. Yeah. Actually, Kyle Kinane was telling me his sister does all these like haunted houses where I hope he'd be fine with me sharing this. I don't think he cares. But she loves to do like the true horror haunted house stuff. So they're from Chicago. And she did one in Chicago he was telling me about where you're like at a haunted campsite or something and they drag you out of your tent
yeah.
and shit.
Kidnap you.
Yeah, they'll kidnap you. And what they did was they put her in a body bag and left her in front of the like Cubs stadium during like a Cubs game.
Really?
And they just were like goodbye. And someone else had to like stumble up on her and like open her body bag.
So
And she was like, it was great. Like, worth every penny.
Like a Cubs
paid
fan
for it.
did that, or
Yeah. Like she was probably banging on the end of it and someone was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And, you know, just opened it.
considering this place, we're not gonna have to add anything. I mean, all we're gonna do is just lock
Yeah.
your ass in there. That's enough. Trust me.
Yeah.
You know?
I would sleep
don't
like
need to add
a
any drama,
baby.
you know?
I'm that fucked up.
so what's behind us?
That if you ever watched that old TV show Barney Miller, you ever seen
No.
it? It's an old cop show where all the offices are like with the smoked glass or like the opaque glass. And there's little windows that open from the top of the door.
Yeah.
So that's what that is, like 4 detective offices.
Oh, cool.
At the moment, it's full of just junk.
I mean, I've never seen. Oh, really? So behind there is that glass?
Yeah, not this way. Come this way.
Because I've never seen that show, but I've seen like the Twilight Zone and stuff where you can.
Yeah, so it's in there. It's just lots of old materials.
Oh, that's rad. Can you see? If I open this, could I see it? Oh, it's locked.
If you need to see, I'll check.
I mean, it's not a huge deal. I really want to see the basement.
Yeah, let's do that first.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
How are you feeling now, Sam?
Like the feeling is like less now than it was like when.
There's bats down here too.
Oh, sweet. I love bats.
Not me.
Make sure.
So just a quick reminder to our listeners, we just passed a sign on the front door as we walk down here that says trespassing is a felony. So if you're curious, this is another one of those places that you're not supposed to cut corners. Don't come down here if you don't get permission. Yeah. If you get permission, yeah, that's the way to do it. It's not a way to, don't be a hero.
This was a shooting range.
Oh, cool. It's definitely drafty down here.
Yeah.
It's a sharp temperature drop down here from up there, that's for sure.
So check that out. Keep area clear.
Can we go down there?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this part is, yeah, the fire.
Over 75 years worth of target practice has gone on.
Wow.
You see the light colored gray stuff?
Yeah.
That's our guns. Recent.
Oh, that's more from just recent
No, it's
shooting.
our guns shooting. Where the other rusty stuff's the cops' guns. Since we've owned it for 5 years,
Oh, yeah. You had to,
we've shot a little bit.
you had to break it in.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. What did this say?
It says keep pit area clean.
Oh, keep pit area clean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you guys gone through the pit?
Oh, tons of lead. Tons of lead. Yeah.
I don't doubt it. It seemed like this is where a body would be. If you were to find a body in here, it seems like it would be right here.
You can see the construction design. Everything's built like this, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Thick concrete.
Oh, this is a sweet door. You're nailing it with the flashlight, Todd. Like you just like no.
Do you want it off or no?
No, you're like perfect. Like every time I go to take a picture, you're like, here, let me perfectly light this.
So this is where.
I know my haunted angles.
So
Appreciate
this is where
you.
here.
Oh no.
This is the evidence room or?
This is the evidence room, one of them.
So this was where he just crudely motioned to someone shooting themselves in the head. So
And having the door locked. Imagine the situation, you know.
with the door
Lock
locked.
themselves in.
So you know for sure that's how the method of suicide was in this room. Yes,
And this is where I felt rushed, actually.
in this room.
Yep.
And how many people took their lives that way in this room?
Reports of 4 over the years.
4 people,
Reports of 4. Yeah.
The
This is
same
not a prison
method.
area. The prisoners can't get to the evidence room.
and it was the same method in the same room.
That's what reports say.
Well, and that's also, obviously, that's the most common way for males to commit suicide. And
If
these
you're
are
a police
cops.
officer and you have a sidearm, that's pretty much what.
And
Yeah,
at the
you have-
shooting range, you can say you're going down there to shoot.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, well, that is just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I lost my dad that way, that exact
It's very
method.
tough.
So it's like, I definitely got that like, oh shit, that hits home.
Do you feel like that down here?
Me? Or do you?
Not as much dread as much as like, it kind of feels like somebody's watching.
I hope you had so much fun exploring the former 6th Precinct of the Detroit Police Department with Sam Rager and I. Be sure to check out Sam's debut album, Trigger Warning, on iTunes and Google Play. You can also find her on Instagram by 2 separate handles, either @RagerSamantha or @LOLFetus. That's at LOLFETUZ. If you'd rather tweet, find Sam on Twitter with the handle at SGRager. While you're at it, check us out on social media too. You can find us with the handle at Lit Dark Podcast. That's at LITDARK Podcast. Or visit us on our website at litdarkpodcast.com if you want to see what's new, check out our merch, or just say hello using our Contact Us form. Special thanks for this episode goes to Todd Bonner of the Detroit Paranormal Expeditions, Dan Steele of Data Behind Bars, my producer Randall Lawrence in Cranival Studios, Jonathan Cooper, my graphic designer, Sarah Schneider, my manager, and of course, all of you for listening. I'll see you next week right here on Laughing in the Dark.
Sources used for episode 20 of Laughing in the Dark include the Detroit Paranormal Expeditions, the Dictionary, databehindbars.com, Michigan Radio NPR, and Wikipedia.
Laughing in the Dark is brought to you in part by Heck Yeah Studio. Heck Yeah Studio is a creative effort working with people to create meaningful things. At Heck Yeah Studio, they work with clients to turn their ideas or existing brands into real or better versions. Heck Yeah Studio is the place to go for custom illustration for a full range of branding services, like killer logos, great colors and typography, and fun illustrations for pins, signs, prints, shirts, vehicles, posters, or anything you can imagine. At Heck Yeah Studio, they work with love. Their dream client is someone who is passionate about what they do. At Laughing in the Dark, Heck Yeah Studio has designed our logo, all of our merch, and any posters or stickers that we have. I am so proud and lucky to work with such an awesome company, and I could not recommend them higher.